Hello everyone, it's Old Guardian here. In this video I'm going to take a bit of a look at the cost of Hearthstone. Specifically, I want to find an answer to the question, how expensive is Saviors of Uldum meta compared to previous Hearthstone meta games? There are several ways that you could try to track that down, but what I have done, the methodology of this study, yeah, I know it's not a fully scientific study, hey, come on. But anyway, the methodology that I have used is that I have browsed through old meta reports in order to establish what have been the top meta decks of various eras of Hearthstone. Then I have browsed through various deck sites and checked what is the most common cost of these meta decks during those eras. And I have compiled them together, and in the end I chose to use top 8 decks. There were several metagames where there were 8 clear decks that were better than the rest. In some of the metagames there was no clear line at 8, so then of course I picked the top 8, but there were some others that were almost as competitive. But in order to keep the figures comparable, I have chosen top 8 archetypes of various eras and checked, okay, how much do these cost? And the first era that I checked was the Witchwood. So we're going back in time a little over a year, fresh after standard rotation. So the card pool is at its smallest, the power level is at its smallest, except it's not exactly at its smallest because we just got Gen and Baku, the two legendary minions that truly defined the era. And they defined much of the top decks as well, and they kept the cost of the top decks very low, because during the Witchwood era we had stuff like Odd Rogue at 6500 dust, Odd Paladin at 6000 dust, even Warlock at 8000 dust. Overall, if you were to craft all the top 8 decks of the Witchwood era, you would pay 59,500 dust. But is that a lot or is that little? In order to find out, we need to compare this to other eras of Hearthstone. We move on to the Boomsday project, and the cost has skyrocketed. We have Cube Warlock, Death Rattle Hunter, even Paladin and even Shaman have arrived, and they have arrived in force, and they have arrived with the power of many legendary minions. The cost to craft the top 8 decks of the Boomsday era is 78,500 dust. So that's an increase of 19,000 dust compared to the Witchwood. Suddenly, during the Boomsday project, Hearthstone became a lot more expensive if you wanted to play multiple tier 1 decks. We still have some cheaper ones in the mix. Odd Paladin is still there, 5,500 dust, Secret Hunter, even Warlock, they have not changed much. So even as a budget player you can still get by. Then we arrived to Rustic Ensemble, and the meta changes a little bit again, but this time actually the cost goes down by a few thousand dust compared to Boomsday project. The most expensive deck, Control Warrior, in this case it's going to be an odd Control Warrior at this era, is hitting new highs at 15,000 dust. And even Paladin remains close to the top and becomes more expensive as well, 13,000 dust. Death Rattle Hunter, that is the Quest Odd Warrior. But still, we have stuff like Odd Paladin, we have stuff like Secret Paladin, and this is where Midrange Hunter begins its rise. And Midrange Hunter suddenly just 3,500 dust, very cheap for a tier 1 deck. Overall the cost came down a little bit from Boomsday project. Next we're headed to Rise of Shadows and the next standard rotation, so we're expecting the cost to go down because lots of expensive cards are leaving the standard format. And indeed, that is what happens, although not quite to the same extent that the cost in Witchwood was. Top decks of the Witchwood era, 67,500 dust. Control Warrior, Bomb Warrior being the most expensive ones, but just about everything else that's on the top has now come down to below 10,000. Mech Paladin, Mech Hunt, Secret Hunt, Murloc Shamans, Token Druid, Aggro Shamans. Fairly aggressive decks and fairly cheap decks as well. But what happens when we enter Saviors of Uldum? This is what happens. The cost to craft the 8 top decks of early Saviors of Uldum meta is around 88,000 dust. We are now beating the Boomsday record by almost 10,000 dust, that's 100 packs by the way. And we're handily beating all cost records with Highlander Mage, coming in at around 19,500 dust. And yeah, I know there are Highlander Mage builds that cost like 22,000, 24,000 dust, but you can get a very good version of it for 19,500. Highlander Hunt, the 14,000 dust. Control Warrior, Bomb Warrior still there. Murloc Paladin, more than 10,000 dust. And that's for what's like an aggro deck. Mech Hunt, Aggro Warrior, 8,000 dust, another aggro deck. Combo Priest is the lone low-cost top-tier deck in early Saviors of Uldum at around 4,000 dust. And how did we get here? I mean, this is unprecedented, this is incredibly expensive meta. Well, Highlander decks is one thing. Highlander decks use a couple of legendary cards already because of their Highlander synergy cards, and then they're prone to use a lot more legendary cards because they can only use one-offs anyway, so why not just slam legendary after legendary after legendary into the deck? So Highlander decks are really driving the price up. But that's not the only thing. Another thing is that Blizzard this time, they printed a lot of core cards for various archetypes as epics. Take Aggro Warrior for example. The Aggro Warrior new core cards, the Mercenary and the Weapon, are both epics. Usually these sorts of core cards would have been rare cards maybe, and epics would be something a little bit more fancy, but no. Now the core cards are being printed as epics, and it's really driving the price up. Even for Zoo. The Vulture is a core card of Self-Harm Zoo and it's an epic. Everywhere it's epic, epic, epic. Psycho Bomb, that's an epic. The new Priest Board Clear, that's an epic. Everything is epic. Murloc Paladin. Both of the spells that the deck uses, Prismatic Lens and Tip the Scales, they're both epics. Everything is epic, and that is really driving the price of Hearthstone up and fast. We can put this in a graph form. Combined cost of top 8 decks of various metagames. As you can see, the Witchwood coming in at under 60,000, then a big bump to Boomsday Project, then slowly going downwards with Rustic Ensemble and Rise of Shadows, and then a bigger jump than ever with Saviors of Uldum. And it's not just the combined cost. If you look at how many top decks you can build for under 10,000 dust each, then in Witchwood you could build almost all the meta decks at under 10,000 dust each. Boomsday Project, Rustic Ensemble, you could build half of the meta decks for under 10,000 each. Rise of Shadows was more dust friendly again, you could build 3 out of 4 meta decks for under 10,000 dust each. But with Saviors of Uldum, it's less than half of the meta decks, and now even aggro decks are costing around 10,000. So it looks like there's been a change in the card design philosophy. More and more core cards are being printed in more expensive rarities, which forces people to buy more packs, and overall just makes the game a lot more expensive at a time like this. And that's some pretty major bad news. I do have a small bit of good news as well though. The piece of good news is that I'm going to start building budget decks for this expansion this week. Okay, they might all fail. It's possible. It might be that I can find a single good budget deck. I don't know yet. But the work is about to begin, and stay tuned to this YouTube channel, and you can find some affordable Saviors of Uldum decks in the near future. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed the show, please click the like button and subscribe to my channel for more.